In the 6th century BC, a prince from northern India left family and fortune in search of answers to the great questions of life and death. Siddhartha Gautam, known as the Buddha, the Enlightened One, laid down a doctrine that soon spread all over the world. The Buddha's doctrine consists of the four noble truths: the existence of suffering, the origin of this suffering, the dissolution of suffering, and the path that leads to the cessation of suffering. The Buddha chose the middle path, or the Noble Eightfold Path, of right view, right purpose, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right absorption of mind. During the lifetime of the Buddha, Buddhism was confined to the Gangetic region. Though his disciples carried out missionary activities throughout the northern part of India, it was in the 3rd century BC, during the reign of Emperor Ashoka, that Buddhism spread beyond India to countries like Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and Southeast Asia. The accounts of the Chinese traveller Fai Han mention the popularity of Buddhism in Prague-Jyotishpur during the reign of Kumar Bhaskar Burman. Goalpara, the Neelanchal hills near Guwahati, Hajo, and many other Buddhist sites in the districts of Shivsagar, Dibrugarh, Tinsukia, and Lakhimpur have yielded Buddhist remains of the ancient as well as late medieval period. This is Hajo, a small township 25 kilometers northwest of Guwahati. The graceful Vaishnav shrine of Hajo, popularly known as Hayagriv Madhav, was rebuilt in 1583 AD by the Konch king Raghudev over the foundation of the ancient temple ruins from 10th-11th century. This is reflected in the friezes of elephants or Gajathara in the plinth moulding and the geometric designs of shadow relief in the basement. Buddhist remains have been found at Hajo, and Lama Buddhists of Bhutan and Tibet consider the Hayagriv Madhav temple as a Buddhist chaitya. The strategic highway passing from the Assam plains via the Pangsao Pass to Myanmar, China, and Southeast Asia facilitated the expansion and promotion of Hinduism and Buddhism to Southeast Asia and the Far East. In the medieval period, political crisis caused the trend of migration to be reversed. It was in this period too that the Singpho, Khamti and Tangsa clans started migrating from Southeast Asia towards India. This is significant because they came with Theravada Buddhism, which was the state religion of Myanmar during the rule of Anirudh, 1044 to 1077 AD. The Thai Khamtis of Arunachal Pradesh are an ancient people who spread out to different lands of Asia. They were already under the influence of Theravada Buddhism and were easily assimilated into the local society, enriching its culture and heritage. The Thai homeland was originally in the region of Keulung Mountains of Central Asia in the upper reaches of the Huanghe River of China. Under pressure from the Chinese and the Mongols, the Thais moved further south along the courses of great rivers. The Irrawaddy, Salween, Meenam, Mekong and Brahmaputra. The migration of the Khamtis brought Buddhism to Assam and the eastern part of Arunachal Pradesh. Soon Theravada Buddhism declined, as the Buddhist monks could not follow the people as they migrated, and it was unable to generate sufficient force to liberate people from their animistic practices. Nature worship continued to exist, one closely interwoven with Theravada Buddhism and the other having no connection with it. As foretold by the Buddha himself, who knowing that death was near, said to his disciples who were weeping, "The world being transitory and death inevitable for all living beings, the time for my own departure has come, but weep not. For 1200 years after my departure, from a lotus blossom in the Dhanakosha lake in the northwestern direction of the country of Urgyen, there will be born one who will be much wiser and more spiritually powerful than myself. He will be called Padmasambhava, and he will transmit the esoteric doctrine in the world." Padmasambhava, also called Guru Rinpoche, the great master of Tantra, introduced Tantric Buddhism to Tibet. Guru Padmasambhava is in the form of Vajradhar, the Udyan diamond holder, sitting on a broad lotus in the midst of Dhanakosh lake, with the Indian princess Mandarv and the Tibetan princess Yeshe Tsogyal, his two leading disciples. He is painted deep blue to represent his primordial sky-like nature. The line of Dzogchen masters is pictured above his head. From the early medieval period, particularly from the later part of the 7th century, Buddhism underwent radical changes, developing into several forms of mystic cults. New forms of Buddhism appeared, which were called Mahayana and Vajrayana. The diamond vehicle, or more frequently, Tantrism. Vajrayana developed in India but spread to Tibet, and it continues to be practiced in Ladakh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim, and Arunachal Pradesh. This discipline combines yoga practice with a highly complex ritualism mixed with magic, and involves the worship of a large number of divinities, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. After Buddhism disappeared from India, Tibet became the center of its dissemination, and in its Tibetan form, it conquered the whole of the Himalayan region. Mahayana Buddhism, both as a religion and a way of life, has influenced the outlook of diverse communities in the Himalayan regions, from Ladakh in the west to Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim in the east. All these areas border on Tibet. Taksang Monastery, or Tiger's Den, lies 45 kilometers beyond Tawang, nestled amidst forests and snow-capped mountains. It is believed to have been visited by Guru Padmasambhava in the 8th century. Legend has it that the Guru meditated in a cave here for some time.
1735 में लोग आके यहाँ पूजा भी किया करेगा बोल के मंदिर बनाया किया था। उनके बाद में पहले जमाना में यहाँ 3 साल के लिए तिब्बत से लामा आते थे। सन 1907 साल के बाद फिर अपना गांव जिमीदांग का अंदर में आता है। जिमीदांग से गांव वाला ने बना के बेचता है। तो हमसे पहले 3 लामा जो बल्ली हो गया और मैं यहाँ आकर के 31 साल हो गया। ये किताब को है बेमा का था। ये गुरु रिम्पोचे का पूरा कहानी है। आजा चरंगा नाम बुए के दोंगुरो बेमा जुआने के रवा नामा बरा तरा बा।
Sikkim also was blessed by Guru Padmasambhava, who visited here in the 8th century and consecrated the land, meditating at its 4 corners. Blessed by Guru Rinpoche and preserved by the spirits, the caves of Sikkim are regarded as very special from a religious point of view. Sharchok Be Phu, or the abode of the peaceful white deity, is believed to be the first cave to be blessed by Guru Padmasambhava. It is a vast cavern, about a quarter of a mile in length, with a height varying from 5 feet to 200 feet. People come here to worship the spirits of the cave, which are associated with the god of purification. Some of the Guru's treasure texts or hidden teachings were revealed from these caves. He is believed to have hidden many secret teachings or dharma in caves here, which he prophesied would be discovered, identified, deciphered and interpreted in the future by those specially blessed with spiritual powers. It was a realization of this prophecy when, in the 17th century, 3 learned lamas, Latsun Chenpo, Kartok Riksik Chenpo and Nagatak Sempa Chenpo entered Sikkim from Tibet in 3 different directions. The 3 learned lamas met at Yuksam Norbagang. Punsong. He possessed all the qualities mentioned in the prophecy and was invited to visit Yuksam, where the 3 learned lamas enthroned him as the first Chogyal of Sikkim in 1641. He was named Chogyal Punsong Namgyal, and so the Namgyal dynasty came into being. The first monasteries to be built in Sikkim were the ones at Dubdi and Sangacholing, close to Yuksam. Dubdi Monastery, sometimes called Yuksam Monastery, stands at a height of 7,000 feet on a spur. Images of divinities, saints and other symbols and a collection of manuscripts and texts are housed in the monastery. The statues of 3 lamas who were responsible for establishing Yuksam are also installed in the monastery. The Tashiding Monastery, the holiest of all monasteries in Sikkim, was built in 1770. According to legend, Guru Rinpoche shot an arrow and vowed to meditate where it fell. The arrow dropped on the spot where the monastery now stands. The Tashiding Monastery, located on a hilltop between the rivers Ratong and Rangit, it is surrounded by deep valleys. In the Chorten area are 41 Chortens of Rinpoches and Tathagats, categorized as Chortens of Enlightenment, Chortens of Reconciliation and Chortens of Great Miracle. Also of note are the stone plates called the Mani, the work of Yanchong Lodil, who inscribed them with the sacred Buddhist inscription, Om Mane Padmeham. The mythological links to the origin of all the lakes in Sikkim made them sacred, and so is the case with the Kechiopalri Lake. Kechiopalri is made up of 2 words. Kechio means flying yoginis or taras, and Palri means palace. One legend is that Guru Padmasambhava preached to 64 yoginis here. It is also believed to be the residing place of the goddess, and it is said that Kechiopalri Lake is her footprint. The Kechiopalri is said to represent one of the 4 plexus of the human body, namely the thorax. The other 3 plexus, the third eye, is said to be represented by Yuksam, the head by Tashiding, and the heart by Pema Yangtze. Pema Yangtze Monastery, which overlooks the Rabdanshe ruins, was built for Tachang, meaning monks of pure Tibetan lineage, celibate and without any physical abnormality. This practice is still maintained. Only the monks of Pema Yangtze monastery are entitled to the title Tachang. The head lama of this monastery had the unique privilege of anointing the chogyals of the erstwhile monarchy of Sikkim with holy water. Wherever Buddhism prevailed, artistic pagodas, monasteries and beautiful stupas came into existence. The popularity of Buddhism and its impact can be noticed in the socio-cultural heritage, monasteries, stupas, dances, festivals, arts and craft of the Buddhist tribes of Arunachal Pradesh. Our journey follows the Lohit River to Walong in Anjaw district, one of the rare places where one finds a blend of spirituality and sacrifice. It reminds one, on the one hand, of the peace-loving Buddhist religion and also the sacrifices made by the Indian Army Jawans during the Sino-Indian War of 1962. The status of tribes living along the international borders are often ambiguous, and they, at times, are treated as migrants. The Mayor and Zakharing are two such tribes of the Mahayana Buddhist sect, living in Walong, Meshai and Kibithu circles of Anjaw district in northeastern Arunachal Pradesh. Both the Mayors and Zakharing came across the Krojang Pass from North Burma and settled around the confluence of Keling and Lohit rivers. They were pushed further north and moved from place to place till they settled in their present area. The Mayor occupy 11 villages in this hilly and rugged terrain, with the tarred road reaching only up to Kibithu. The rest of the area is difficult to access by vehicles, and frequent landslides and lack of public transport means that much of the area has to be accessed on foot. Crossing suspension bridges being the only way to reach the villages. The Zakharing recently adopted Mahayana Buddhism. Theirs is a peculiar blend of Buddhism and pre-Buddhist tribal religious belief. Culturally, the Zakharing are more akin to the Mishami than to the Tibetans just across the border in the north. The furthest point where the motorable road ends is a small village called Kapu, where the Memba people live in a small settlement of just 17 to 18 families. The Khambas and Membas are a small tribe who inhabit the northern part of West Siang. It is believed that the Membas are the first group of people to immigrate from Tibet to this region about 10 to 11 generations ago. Deeply entrenched in Tibetan Buddhism, The members and kambas are as peaceful and serene as their surroundings. The whirling of prayer wheels and constant chanting of the devout are a truly meditative experience. The Tawang monastery stands on the spur of a hill at about 10,000 feet. The oldest existing Buddhist monastery in Asia, having been constructed around the middle of the 17th century. The Tawang monastery became a stronghold of Gelugpa Buddhism, and its sway extended over the entire Kameng district up to the foothills of Assam. The Tawang Gompa has three wings: the Nierchang, revenue; the Drachang, administrative; and the Labrang, spiritual. The library at the monastery is a designated manuscript conservation center, and its rare collection of Buddhist texts enhances its cultural importance. The monastery has the capacity to house 700 lamas, and admission is confined to the monpas, particularly to those of the area from where the monastery receives contributions. The Mompas of Monyal were Nyingmapa Buddhists, and Gelugpa Buddhism came to the fore only when the Tawang Gompa was built in the 1860s under the inspiration and leadership of a monk called Mera Lama. The Gompa was completed during the reign of the fifth Dalai Lama. It is said that when asked to send his blessings, he drew blood from his nostrils and with his forefinger drew a thanka of Palden Lamo, Mother Kali. This was rolled and encased in silk and kept hidden in the main altar, where it still lies in a silver casket. The presiding deity of the Gompa remains Palden Lamo. There are two nunneries or Anegompa at Tawang. Mera Lama had a sister who was a nun, and since women cannot reside at the Tawang monastery, a nunnery was constructed for her, known as Jiangong Anegompa. She got her provisions from the monastery, a tradition that still continues. The nuns perform minor chores in the monastery, for which they draw a monthly allowance. The other nunnery, Pramo Dongzung Anegompa, depends on the charity of the laity. With the establishment of the Tawang monastery, the Gelugpa sect gradually but steadily gained supremacy in Tawang, and the other sects lost their hold. The history of the Gelugpa sect in this region starts with Tangson Gyalpo, a Gelugpa Lama from Tibet who was a fellow disciple and associate of the first Dalai Lama. Tangson Gyalpo, who came to meditate in a cave near the village of Kraling, about 7 miles southeast of Tawang, is celebrated for constructing this iron chain suspension bridge called Chaksam Bridge over the Tawangchu River. The monastery comes into view from a great distance and stands like a fort as if guarding the Tawang valley below. The Dukpas of Bhutan made many attempts to capture Tawang. In the Gelugpa struggle against the Nyingmapas and Karmapas, who were dominant in the area, the 3 oldest temples, Urgeling, Sangeling and Sorling, were destroyed, but these were later rebuilt when the 6th Dalai Lama was born at the Urgeling monastery. The Gelugpa, or the Way of Virtue, originated as a reformist movement. This tradition is known for its emphasis on logic and debate. Its spiritual head is the Ganden Tripa and its temporal one, the Dalai Lama. The order was founded in the 14th to 15th century by Je Tsongkhapa. The Tawang monastery is the fountainhead of the spiritual life of its Gelugpa followers, the Mompas and the Sherdukpens. The Sherdukpens live in a long and narrow strip of valley in the Bomdila subdivision of Western Kameng district. Mainly in the villages of Rupa and Shergaon. After accepting Buddhism, they have included some local deities into the pantheon. The Sherdukpen religion, therefore, is a curious blend of Buddhism and the local Bon cult. There are virtually no Buddhist lamas within their tribe, and lamas from the Monpa and Tibetan communities are invited to conduct Buddhist rituals whenever necessary. From the 27th to the 29th day of the 11th month of the lunar calendar, the Tawang monastery comes alive with the Torja. It is one of the main festivals of the Mompas of Arunachal Pradesh. It is believed that the Torja drives off evil spirits and harmful forces and ushers in peace, prosperity and good health. The festival combines the performances of charm or spiritual dance and the burning of torma or spiritual cake and the initiation of the white Tara. The celebrations conclude with the Mandala Darshan. The monks initiate the festival by making a pyramidal structure out of flour called torja and place it before the deities in the main prayer hall. The lamas recite religious texts called Torja Chakir. The abbot, accompanied by the senior lamas of the monastery, then throws the torja into the fire with a prayer to end all evil forces afflicting the people. It is indeed fascinating to watch the colorful charms or spiritual dances that mark the occasion. Appa Patsam, the main folk dance of the occasion, is performed by the dancers. The 12 dances performed during the 3-day-long celebrations depict the 12 horoscopes of the Buddhist tradition and show the victory of good over evil. On the 3rd day of the festival, the abbot bestows his blessings on everyone by touching their heads and sprinkling holy water. The blessed Mane Ribu pills and Rungma or sacred thread is then distributed to all to protect them from evil spirits and to usher in good fortune, health and longevity. Today, Sikkim has nearly 200 monasteries and lakhangs, and the influence of Buddhism is felt in nearly every corner of the state. The people of Sikkim comprise the Lepchas, who are the original inhabitants of the state. The Bhutias, belonging to the Tibeto-Burman family, and a sizable population of Nepalis. This ancient Buddhist kingdom is dominated by the looming profile of Mount Kanchenjunga, revered as the guardian deity of Sikkim. The practice of Buddhism in the eastern Himalayas has been a subject of study, mainly from the point of view of history and theology. The indigenous Lepchas who first inhabited this land around the 12th century worshipped the mountain in a shamanistic way. They make offerings of fruits, grains, and sacrifice fowls or goats to propitiate the mountain spirit for a bountiful harvest and to secure themselves against the wrath of nature. Buddhism, therefore, accommodated principles of the Bon faith and assumed a particular form among the indigenous Lepchas. Many Lepchas have not given up their shamanistic religion, which is known as Mun. In practice, rituals from Mun and Buddhism are frequently observed alongside one another. Pang Lab Sol is one of the most important festivals of the Buddhist community, celebrated during the 13th, 14th and 15th day of the 7th month of the lunar calendar. Different communities like the Bhutias, Nepalis and Lepchas come together, as it is one of the few festivals that the Sikkimese community can proudly claim as their own. On this day, Mount Kanchenjunga is worshipped for its unifying powers. The festival also marks the signing of the Treaty of Brotherhood between the Lepchas and Bhutias, and all the deities are invoked to witness the historic occasion. Lapsang, or incense, is offered at the 4 sacred caves by different monasteries. At Kabi Lungsok, the place where a formal treaty of blood brotherhood was signed. And finally, incense is offered in Mainam Hill. Pema Yangtze means perfect sublime lotus. The history of the monastery is very closely linked to the reign of Chador Namgyal at Rabdense. Chador, who was very religious, had tried to spread Buddhism in Sikkim. He decreed that the second of every 3 sons of a Bhutia family shall be ordained as a monk of the Pema Yangtze monastery. He not only patronized Buddhist religious places, but also introduced religious dances and mystery plays to highlight the martial arts and native traditions of Sikkim. This area, monasteries and the way monastic traditions relate to social life, culture and outlook of the communities are unique. The warrior dance, dedicated to Kanchenjunga, was crafted and performed for the very first time in Rabdanse Palace. The Pangtod Cham comprises 15 members, with Zyonga or Kanchenjunga at the head, followed by Yedwe or Mahakal, and the 13 Dhala Pangtod dancers. The third Chogyal of Sikkim, Chakdor Namgyal, is credited for choreographing the Pangtod dance performed by the monks on this day. The guardian deity is portrayed by a masked Lama dancer as a fiery red-faced deity wearing a crown of 5 skulls and riding a snow lion. The Dhala Pangtod dance is performed keeping in mind the 5 elements of Mother Earth, as they are all different manifestations of the deities of Sikkim. Yabdu, Kanchenjunga's supreme commander, wears a black mask. The dramatic entry of Mahakal, the protector of Dharma or faith, is one of the highlights of the dance. It is Mahakal who commands Kanchenjunga and Yabdu to defend the faith and bring peace and prosperity to Sikkim. To lighten the mood of the spectators, jesters called achars perform antics during the charms. Pema Yangtze Monastery of Gyaltsing commands an impressive view of Mount Kanchenjunga. The first floor of the monastery has a notable collection of ancient Buddhist antique idols, scriptures, as well as sculptures and thangkas. Padmasambhava's 8 incarnations in a fierce form are also seen here. Of particular note is a 7-tiered painted wooden structure portraying Guru Rinpoche's heavenly palace known as Sanghathok Palari on the top floor of the monastery. The painting has scenes of rainbows and angels with a whole panoply of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This structure was constructed by Dungzin Rinpoche over a period of 5 years. The Rumtek Monastery is the seat of the Kagyu order, one of the 4 major Tibetan Buddhist sects. The monastery is located 24 kilometers from Gangtok, the capital of Sikkim, at an altitude of about 1500 meters. When the 16th Karmapa arrived in Sikkim in 1959, after fleeing Tibet, the monastery was in ruins. Despite being offered other sites, the Karmapa decided to rebuild Rumtek as his main seat in exile. Traditional in design, it is almost a replica of the original Kagyu headquarters in Tibet. The center houses some of the most unique religious scriptures and art objects. A golden stoop contains the relics of the 16th Karmapa. Opposite that is the Karma Shri Nalanda Institute for Higher Buddhist Studies. The 9th Karmapa, Wangchuk Dorje, was invited by the king of Sikkim in the 16th century, and he founded the 3 monasteries of the Kagyu sect of Tibetan Buddhism here, namely Phodong, Ralang and Rumtek. Kagyupa, or the lineage of the Buddha's word, is an oral tradition which is concerned with the experiential dimension of meditation. Its most famous exponent was Milarepa, an 11th century mystic. Phodong Monastery has a residence of approximately 260 monks. It was reconstructed by Sidkyong Tulku Namgyal, who was recognized as the reincarnation of his uncle Sidkyong Namgyal, the abbot of the monastery. The Ralang Monastery, also belonging to the Kagyu sect of Tibetan Buddhism in southern Sikkim, is located 6 kilometers from Ravangla. According to legend, Ralang was built after the 4th Chogyal returned from his pilgrimage to Tibet. The 9th Karmapa performed the Rabne, or blessing ceremony, from his residence at Surfu Monastery in Tibet. Grains from the ceremony fell on the ground at Ralang, and this became the site for the monastery. The Ralang monastery in Sikkim prepares for the charm mask dance. The charm dance is a lively mask and costume dance accompanied by music played by monks on traditional Tibetan instruments. The dance offers moral instruction and compassion and brings merit to all who watch it. Pilgrims from all parts of Sikkim visit the monastery to witness the dance and to reaffirm their faith in the teachings of the Buddha. Charm dances are considered a form of meditation and an offering to the gods. Charms often depict incidents from the life of Guru Padmasambhava, the 9th century Nyingmapa teacher, and his battle against the forces of evil. It also depicts incidents from the life of other saints. The lamas dress up as Mahakal and Guru Dragdamar in colorful costumes. The winter charms present the battle between good and evil and the ritualized destruction of evil. Taught by monks wherever they traveled, the Buddha's doctrine was open to a wide variety of interpretations and to the influences of local languages and cultural traditions. From the fluttering prayer flags to the sacred caves, lakes and stupas, the images and symbols of Buddhism retain a freshness undimmed by the passage of time.